The crowd burst into laughter the moment the rusty old car rolled into the crowded daytime parking lot. Its faded blue paint was peeling, one headlight looked cloudy, and the engine sounded like it had survived 100 storms. People pulled out their phones, pointing and laughing as if they had just witnessed the biggest joke of the day. Then one sharply dressed woman stepped forward with a smirk and loudly mocked the single father who had proudly parked it. She told everyone that only a desperate fool would waste even $100 on a piece of junk like that. The father lowered his eyes for only a second before quietly smiling at his young daughter standing beside him. 5 days later, the same car would be surrounded by television cameras, collectors, and racing experts after one of the greatest racing legends in the world offered $5 million for it, leaving everyone speechless. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and hidden treasures still exist in this world, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Heartwarming Tales. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories every week. The single father was named Elias Rowan, a humble mechanic who lived in a small town with his 8-year-old daughter, Nora. Since losing his wife years earlier, every day had become a careful balance between earning enough money to survive and giving his daughter the happiest childhood he possibly could. They did not have expensive clothes or a beautiful home, but they had something far more valuable. They had each other. Every morning before sunrise, Elias repaired old engines in a tiny garage while Nora finished her homework nearby. She often smiled whenever her father explained how every machine had a story if someone cared enough to listen. He believed nothing was truly worthless. Sometimes all something needed was patience, honesty, and someone willing to see beyond appearances. One bright morning, Elias spotted an old abandoned car sitting behind a storage warehouse. The owners simply wanted it gone and agreed to sell it for $100. Most people saw only rust, dust, and broken parts. Elias noticed tiny details others ignored. The unusual frame, rare engine markings, and handcrafted suspension reminded him of stories his own father had once told him about forgotten racing machines built decades ago. He brought the car home on a borrowed trailer while neighbors watched with confused expressions. Nora clapped happily, pretending they had just adopted a lost puppy. To her, the car already looked beautiful because her father believed it deserved another chance. For the next several days, Elias cleaned every inch of the vehicle after work. Instead of replacing everything immediately, he carefully studied each component. Beneath layers of dirt he discovered a small engraved serial plate almost completely hidden under old paint. His heartbeat quickened. The numbers matched a production sequence he remembered reading about years before. Still, he kept his excitement to himself. Later that week, a local daytime charity car exhibition invited anyone to display interesting vehicles. Elias thought it would simply be a fun outing for Nora, so they drove the old car there. That was when the wealthy businesswoman named Marissa Vale laughed at him in front of everyone. She mocked the car's appearance, questioned his intelligence, and suggested that some people should stop pretending junk could become treasure. The crowd laughed with her because confidence often sounds convincing even when it is completely wrong. Elias never argued. Instead, he thanked the volunteers, held Nora's hand, and quietly walked around the exhibition. His calmness confused many people who expected anger or embarrassment. Among the visitors that afternoon happened to be retired racing historian Victor Ashcroft, a legendary champion whose career had inspired generations. He almost ignored the old vehicle until sunlight reflected across the hidden serial plate Elias had uncovered. Victor froze. His expression completely changed. He slowly walked around the car several times, examining tiny handcrafted details invisible to almost everyone else. Then he asked Elias where he had found it. Within minutes, several restoration experts joined them. They carefully confirmed what Victor already suspected. The rusty automobile was not an ordinary forgotten car. It was the only surviving prototype built before a famous championship season decades earlier. Historians had believed it had been destroyed forever after disappearing during transportation. Collectors around the world had spent years searching for it without success. News spread across social media within hours. Television reporters arrived. Classic car collectors began calling non-stop. People who had laughed only minutes earlier suddenly stood in stunned silence. Exactly 5 days after Elias had purchased the vehicle for $100, Victor publicly offered $5 million, promising that the car would be professionally restored and displayed so future generations could appreciate its remarkable history. The crowd gasped. Marissa's confident smile disappeared completely. She realized she had judged an entire person based only on appearances. Reporters expected Elias to celebrate wildly, but his first reaction surprised everyone even more. He looked at Nora. She smiled with tears in her eyes because she knew what that money truly meant. It meant no more unpaid bills. No more worrying about groceries. No more wondering whether her father could afford medicine or school supplies. It meant freedom from years of quiet struggle. Even after receiving the payment, Elias remained exactly the same humble man. He bought a comfortable home instead of a mansion. He expanded his little garage and hired struggling mechanics who needed honest work. He created scholarships for children who dreamed of becoming engineers and mechanics but lacked financial support. He quietly donated equipment to vocational schools without asking anyone to place his name on the buildings. Meanwhile, Marissa found herself thinking constantly about that afternoon. The memory of laughing at someone who had done nothing wrong became impossible to forget. Eventually, she visited Elias' garage. Instead of blaming her, Elias welcomed her kindly. That unexpected kindness affected her more deeply than any harsh words ever could. She later began supporting local training programs for young mechanics, admitting publicly that she had learned an unforgettable lesson about judging people by appearances. The restored prototype eventually became one of the most admired exhibits in the country. Beside it stood a simple plaque telling visitors that history is often discovered by ordinary people who refuse to overlook forgotten things. Visitors admired the beautiful machine every day, but many left talking not about the car itself, but about the humble father who had seen value where everyone else saw only rust. Elias often reminded Nora that life works the same way. People, dreams, and opportunities are rarely as ordinary as they first appear. Sometimes the greatest treasures hide beneath years of hardship, waiting for someone with enough patience and compassion to recognize them. If this story touched your heart, please write "Kindness finds treasure" in the comments below. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Before this story ends, if Elias and Nora inspired you, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Heartwarming Tales. Your support allows these inspiring stories to reach more hearts around the world. Because in the end, the greatest fortune was never the $5 million. It was the character of a father who refused to let mockery change his kindness, and a little girl who learned that true value is never determined by appearances. Sometimes, the world laughs at what it doesn't understand, until the truth finally arrives and leaves everyone speechless.